If the U.S. military were to actually launch a ground assault to seize islands from Iran, then no matter which island they choose to land on, it could very well turn into a nightmare, especially if the U.S. Air Force has not fully destroyed Iran's active strike capabilities. Insisting on a forced amphibious landing would hardly be a wise decision. Just by looking at what happened at Saudi Arabia's Prince Sultan Air Base, one can already anticipate the kind of situation U.S. forces might face after such a landing. The reason Iran dares to threaten the closure of the Strait of Hormuz is that the entire region falls within the effective strike range of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. From the Strait of Hormuz to the islands along the Persian Gulf coast, there is one critical factor. These islands are extremely close to Iran's mainland. For example, Qeshm Island is only about 2 kilometers from Iran at its closest point, while even the farthest island, Greater Tunb, is only about 75 kilometers away. At such distances, these areas fall well within the effective saturation range of Iran's rocket artillery. For Iran, it's like firing at targets right at its own doorstep. As long as Iranian rockets have a range of 150 kilometers, they pose a deadly threat to any U.S. forces that have seized an island. While rockets may lack the precision of missiles, they are cheap, numerous, and highly mobile. Launch and move tactics make them extremely difficult to track and destroy. Combined with Iran's FPV fiber optic drones, this represents the extreme application of asymmetric warfare. These drones have already demonstrated shocking effectiveness in modern conflicts like the Russia-Ukraine war, achieving unexpectedly high damage efficiency. Imagine U.S. troops after landing. Temporary facilities, parked equipment, and concentrated personnel would essentially become exposed targets under dense rocket and drone bombardment. Some analysts suggest that the U.S. might prioritize targeting Qeshm Island, since it controls a strategic choke point in the Strait of Hormuz and hosts an airport and a forward base for air operations, potentially even serving as a staging ground for strikes deeper into Iran. While this logic is not entirely wrong, it underestimates Iran's response speed and intensity. The airport is only 20 to 30 kilometers from the Iranian mainland. Even if U.S. air defenses could intercept incoming threats, dealing with massive volumes of low-cost rockets and drones would quickly overwhelm interception capacity. If U.S. aircraft were to operate from that airport, a scenario similar to the damage at Prince Sultan Air Base could occur again, where multiple aerial refueling tankers and an early warning aircraft were reportedly destroyed, resulting in significant losses. In recent years, Iran has also built a layered defense system. This is not just about a few guns or missiles, but a multi-layered strike network designed specifically to counter U.S. naval and amphibious forces. The first 2 layers consist of drone swarms and saturation rocket attacks, while the third layer includes anti-ship missiles and naval mines to block external supply routes. This leads to the biggest challenge for U.S. forces after capturing an island, but sustaining it. Not just holding it, troops would require continuous supplies of ammunition, food, water, and medical resources, amounting to tons of logistics daily. Air supply alone would likely be insufficient for long-term operations. Moreover, U.S. bases in the Middle East are relatively far from the Strait of Hormuz. If transport aircraft were intercepted by Iranian drones or missiles, U.S. forces on the island could quickly become isolated, facing shortages of critical supplies. Even in the best-case scenario, if the U.S. manages to seize key islands, it may still fail to achieve its strategic objectives. Iran could continue targeting U.S. positions with drones, missiles, and naval mines while maintaining pressure on the Strait of Hormuz, potentially disrupting global oil shipments. This could trigger a surge in global energy prices, impacting even the U.S. economy. Holding such islands would require continuous deployment of troops, equipment, and resources, dragging the U.S. into a costly and prolonged commitment. In the end, the effort may not be worth the strategic gains. For instance, when Donald Trump spoke about seizing Karg Island for its oil resources, the question remains, is the U.S. prepared for a long-term, direct confrontation with Iran? That kind of objective requires extensive long-term planning, not something achievable in the short term. Ultimately, the real question is not whether the U.S. can carry out such an operation, but whether it is worth the cost. The islands around the Strait of Hormuz are undoubtedly important, and the U.S. has long been interested in them, but if it were to forcibly seize them, the price would likely be extremely high.